I don't know if the computer actually says recording in progress or not, but yeah, I hear it on my side. Hopefully everybody hears it on their side. We are having gremlin issues today, so we're gonna have a typical day in the neighborhood for us. We're out in the middle of nowhere, Texas, pretty much 20 to 45 minutes from the nearest largest city. So our internet kind of stinks. Today's webinar is about what is it like living with a service dog. I was hoping that a couple of more people would show up that said they would, but we'll see if they want to come in later on. So we're going to meet the Service and Working Dog Handlers Guild staff, SWDHG. It is a mouthful to say, and it's a mouthful to type 2 as well. I'm the project leader, Robin Kearney Frazier. I'm in Pipe Creek, Texas. We've got Megan Perkins in Santa Fe that is with us. Jessica Rondon was supposed to join us. I'm not quite sure where she is, but she is in Helotes, Texas. Renee, I forgot her last name. Oh my God, she's gonna kill me. I think it's Renee Smith.
I don't think you'd kill anybody over Zoom. You'll be okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been one of those days. We did have a couple places that I reached out to, thought that they would be able to try to join our program or at least get some of their handlers in here. We're going to start off with the handlers that many of the trainers have service dogs of their own. I certainly do. I know Megan does as well. Mikey is one of our support personnel. We've got Colleen. She bebops between Texas and Colorado, right? No? Wyoming? Montana? Oregon? Your microphone's off.
Sorry, mouthful.
That's okay.
It was California that I was in for a while.
California, okay. I will update that on the list.
But I only go there to visit family.
Okay. So most of the time you're still in Texas, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Like I said, I was hoping to get some guest handlers from other areas to show in, but we'll see if they do. And Mikey is our Guardians Guild Master Assistant. She helps run Merchants Guild and Resources Guild and is my extra brain cell when I need it. Joining us probably somewhere in back hiding is our Technicians Guild Master, Matthew Frazier. Somebody asked me when I had them proof my PowerPoint, why do you have Matt? Matt does a lot of physical labor around here. If there's a busted gate that needs to be replaced or a gate built to keep dogs out of my ducts, he's the one that handles it. And eventually when we get to the point where we have permanent facilities, he's going to be greatly involved with that. So he does need to be aware of what goes into training dogs, specifically service dogs. A lot of this is going to be informational, kind of let everybody know what our program is doing and where it's been and where we plan on going. We were founded in 2017 as the Service Dog Handlers Network of Bandera County. Yes, Colleen, that is how long we've been doing this. It's been a while. We used to meet up front, I think 10 a.m. on first or third Saturdays, I don't remember. In 2020, we saw the addition of therapy dogs to the network, and I was really hoping Desiree Simpson, that's right, we got 2 Desirees and a Destiny, and yeah, we have 2 or 3 Desirees now. So she has a therapy dog. She also trains dogs to be therapy dogs, and she is in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. 2022, this is the year of big change. As most everybody know, Guilds of Requiem did receive its nonprofit private foundation acceptance by the IRS, and they backdated us to 2020. That was a real huge surprise for me. I had it on my planogram that 2025 this would happen, and well, no, it happened this year. So we changed the name of our program to include all working dogs, and we went from being a network or a project to having its own guild members. We are going to be offering a dog trainer externship to anybody who is taking an online learning course on how to train dogs. We are networked with ABI, Animal Behavior Institute, not to be confused with Animal Behavior College. They're two different organizations, and one of them slapped me down for calling them the wrong thing, but it's ABI, Animal Behavior Institute, is who we are affiliated with. I am, as I can afford it, or we can find grants. I'm going to go through their dog training program again, because I realized it's been a really, 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 really long time since I've been certified to train dogs. And in Texas, that is a big thing. The Merchants and Resources Guild are adding their talents to the program. And this is to help anybody who is a dog trainer that wants to eventually run their own dog training program. We help them walk through them how to market their business and what kind of permits and forms do they need, specifically in Texas. As we get bigger and bigger, I think Brittany, she's in Texas too. I believe Megan, I think you're our only trainer that's not in Texas. So if we get a trainee in your area in New Mexico, we might kind of lean on you for information on what they need to know about running a dog training business.
Yes, for sure.
We will be setting a recommended trainer's fee guidelines for service dogs. That is one of the challenges to getting a service dog, is it is very, very, very expensive. Even with owner assisted training, which means that a trainer was working with me. They would work with Wicket one day, then the second day we would work together. Cletus was completely trained by another person, because at the time I could not train a dog that large by myself. And it was still pretty expensive. The least expensive service dog I've ever had is ones that I have trained myself. And I put him through the CGC's Canine Good Citizen, because Texas recognizes that certification on a dog as being public access. That is different from state to state. But if for some reason your team ever lands in court, that is a very important piece of paper that you're going to need that says, yes, my dog has been trained to be out in public and be sociable with other dogs. That's essentially what it is. It's the best way to verify with a legal entity that your dog is public access ready. We're also working on creating a network of preferred care providers for all working dogs. That is going to be the trainers themselves, vets, dog groomers. I was hoping Angela would be able to make it, but she is due to have a baby in 4 days.
Wow.
So she owns a dog grooming school in Medina, which is a part of Bandera County. And several of her students expressed an interest in becoming dog trainers, which is why I agreed to take on a mama dog and 5 rescues, because we had originally had 8, and then it was 5, then it was 3, then it was 2. So life happens, and we understand that. I mean, that's just how things are, specifically if you're dealing with people who have disabilities. And that's kind of leads into that we're starting a Rescue to Hero with 4 Paws program. What that does is we are going to take basically rescue dogs, preferably moms with puppies, because our philosophy is that if we can start training as soon as possible, with that dog being in the care of the person who's going to be their handler, the stronger the bond is going to be, specifically for medical alerting and psychiatric work. That is a very crucial bond to have happen. If for some reason they wash out of public access, anxiety, aggression issues, whatever, they will still have a very well-trained emotional support companion. We did also add that government-owned canine teams are eligible to join. For those who made it to Ren Fair, Mikey, they did say that they saw you when they were walking around with Sybaris and his 2 extra heads. A couple of my friends, and one of them is retiring from Bexar County as a canine handler, and she's got a big old black pitty mix of a dog, and they sewed 2 dog heads so that for Ren Fair, so that they would come out, you know, Cerberus is his name, so that's what they had him looking like. Apparently he did not appreciate that, and as soon as they got in the vehicle, got it off from him, he promptly destroyed it. So we are adding that canine teams are eligible to join, and what that basically does is it helps their dogs socialize with non-working dogs, you know, with dogs that they normally will find out in public, which are service dogs and therapy dogs. Also, they have an amazing resource of training that they can share with us. Service and therapy dogs will remain our main training focus. Word on emotional support animals. When the ADA recognizes them as a working class of dog, then we will add them to our membership. We do welcome people who are coming in with their emotional support animal that they're working on training. We do have the minimum requirement that they cannot be reactive to other dogs, and the dog must stay under their control at all times. That is a safety factor and feature for everyone, specifically our highly investment that we have in our service animals who are recognized as medical equipment in the state of Texas. Almost every state does. So what's the future of our program? 2025 is my year of goals. I have a lot of goals that I'd like to see happen between now and then. That gives us 3 years to make it happen. One of them is to have a meeting and training facility with indoor outdoor kennels for canines and training. That is very important, especially if we're going to be acting as an externship for online training programs. They need to have a dog that they can work with consistently, and sometimes they are not allowed to have dogs where they live. So they will have to come to us to work with the dog on a daily basis, or however amount of time that we determine that they need to be here spending with it. We are looking for a network of foster families for when we take in rescues. The second part of that is I am grant seeking to help offset the costs of caring for any rescues that we take in. We're going to aiming to have established relationships with several of our preferred pet care providers, who we hope will provide discounts to the service and working dog handlers. Here, can I have my water, please? The coffee is not cutting it on my sore throat. We will have medical membership cards indicating that either the person is a trainer with our program, they're a handler with our program, or they're a foster family with our program. The only thing that these cards are going to be good for is going to these preferred pet care providers to show them that you're part of our program and to get a discount. And as I said, we're getting grants to ensure that any person in need of a service dog will have access to one in our local community. Any dogs that are washed or retired or returned to us for any reason will go into our senior companion program that I'm starting to lay the foundation with the Silver Sage Senior Community Center in Bandera. And we have to hope to have our own dog training program and still be able to offer externships to students coming in from online sources or other sources. This is where we start getting into, you know, a little bit, I get to yap my trap a little bit more, than I've got some questions that I'm going to ask the different people that they can sound off on. So some of the things to remember when you have a service dog. Biggest thing that we focus on is handlers' rights and handlers' responsibilities. They go hand in hand when you have a service dog. Yes, our service dog is considered a medical assistive device. Many states do have laws that make interfering with your service dog a crime. Yes, there are places that legally can legally not allow a service animal, especially when it can interfere with the safe operation of their establishment. I have been looking into that. Somebody had reached out to me and said that they ran into access issues at a church that they'd moved and they're trying to become a new member of that church, and the church told them, no, you can't have your service dog. And of course, you know, we're going to call this person Karen. And truthfully, her name is Karen, which is really more funny about it. She went off on him saying that they had to allow her service dog in, So she reached out to me. I reached out to them to get their side of it. And they have, basically, they're saying that you can't come in with your service animal into the main chapel. They do have a special seating area so that there is less distraction for the dog and for the other people in the church. She wanted to sit up front and center with her dog. And after working with her dog a little bit, her dog was not ready for public access. So that was the second thing that I had to address with her about it. They do have to provide an acceptable options of different medical assistive devices. This could be somebody helping them walk to their seat, allowing a wheelchair, making sure that they're accessible for more traditional means of medical devices. So they do have to do that. Yes, you and your partner can be in a restaurant seated in the same area as everyone else. Most locales have a health and safety law that prevents a service dog from being in the kitchen of a food establishment. That means that if you have a service dog and you want to go work at a restaurant, local health and safety laws is going to trump ADA that your dog cannot be in the kitchen. If that's where you're working as the kitchen, your dog cannot be in there. It is a health and safety issue for everyone involved. Yes, businesses can ask you to leave if your partner is not following public access and you are not taking steps to regain your partner under control. This is excessive barking, defecating. Is it raining outside? Yes. That's probably why we're having issues, is it's raining here. If the dog is lunging off on their leash, lunging at people, getting into the shelves, whatever, they can ask you to leave because those are definitely violating public access guidelines. Our second equation is handlers' responsibilities. This is the one where we do have a lot of people push back on us. For some reason, there's a lot of people that feel that because they're disabled, they have a lot of extra self-entitlement. You give them a dog and a service dog. Yeah, Colleen knows who I'm talking about. And, I have a service dog, it's registered, I'm allowed to go in here. Okay, that is not being very responsible having your service dog. So like it or not, the moment you step out into public with a service dog, you are a brand ambassador. The brand is the service dog community. If you are not being polite and not being knowledgeable and being very difficult, you are making it harder for every single team who follows you into that location to not have access issues. If you go into a location, you are presented with a public access issue, you handle it calmly, you handle it with dignity, keep your voice under control, no cussing and swearing. I am going to be setting up business cards that have the ADA laws on it that can be purchased from us. Have those with. I mean, it tells them the 2 questions they can ask, and it also on the back it tells them, unless this is creating a fundamental change in how they run their business, or it's a safety hazard like at zoos and they, walking through the cages and everything, you need to be polite. And yes, they do need to give you access. So you also have to remember, you might be the first time that someone has met a person with a service dog. When I first started coming out to Bandera County, 2014 or 2015, Wicket and I was the first service dog team that anybody had ever met out here. So, and Celine at the time. And that just completely floored them. They didn't know how to behave, they didn't know how to react. I had to do a lot of educating. And the day that I showed up not having Celine with was a major heartbreak to 90% of the businesses that I frequented in Bandera County. Reminder again to always be polite so that the next team doesn't have to fight an additional battle to public access. Clean up poop, even if it's done outside. Clean up after your partner. It's just, people see that service dog vest and they see your dog pick it up. They're going to go, maybe that person doesn't really need a service dog, or maybe they're just got a vest on their pet. So we always want to make sure that we're giving a positive attitude. And seriously, clean it up. There's nothing worse than following behind another team in the store, watch their dog drop a dookie, and now you've got to keep your dog from sniffing the dookie and pull out your poop bags and clean it up and dispose of it. We also have to be aware of local ordinances. What this simply means is that if your city requires dogs to be licensed with them and with proof of current vaccinations, whatever they require for vaccinations in the city you live in, then you need to be compliant with it. Even if it's a service dog, you still need to be compliant with it. ADA, the American Disabilities Act, is the most freedom, has the most freedom and restrictions on the service dog guidelines. What this basically means is that no local, county, or state ordinance can contradict what the ADA states on access for service dogs. They can grant additional privileges to a service dog team. Texas is one of those states where they say that a service dog in training with a certified handler can have the same access. Well, because ADA allows owner training, guess what? You better make sure you know your stuff when you're training your dog if you get into trouble, get into a situation. Like I said, example, Texas grants the same rights as a trained service dog. They also grant full access to a team with a miniature horse as a service animal. Texas does not distinguish between dogs and miniature horses as being a service animal. South Dakota does. South Dakota basically follows only what the ADA says, and they don't have anything extra for a miniature horse. Commonly questions we get about service dogs. And I went back and I looked at our Facebook page, and I looked at all of our emails. I even went back into the Service Dog Network email account, which is, hasn't been accessed in a while. And I pulled some of the questions out of there. Biggest thing, how long does training take? In the world of instant gratification, people want the dog now. What they don't understand is it takes around 2 years without regard to if you're starting with an 8-week-old puppy or an 8-month-old puppy. I have been running into agencies that will not start training until the puppy is full grown around 2 years of age. That shocked me because, if you're doing psychiatric dog work, but they have their system that works, and they said they won't take anybody over than 4 years of age, which makes sense. But yeah, it depends on the trainer and everything else. Why is there such a difference? A lot of it depends on the trainer's amount of experience and their personal philosophy on dog training. Many want to wait until a puppy is full grown to ensure that they have the physical stamina and the predisposition to be a working dog. That was one of the things that we learned with Cletus. Yes, I needed a heavy mobility dog, but about 4 months ago, he started having major anxiety about being out in public after he was attacked by somebody's pet in a store. He's got the physical stamina, but he now has a lot of anxiety. Just even getting him to load up in the van is an issue. Some more commonly asked questions. How much does a service dog cost? A fully trained by a person or organization exceed $20,000 and will require a minimum of 2 weeks at their facility to ensure a bond between the handler and dog, along with speaking their language. When I got Celine, I was on a waiting list for 2.5 years, had to make the drive from Corpus Christi to Dallas, Texas, 8 different times, and spend 2 weeks up there working with a prospective service dog for myself before we finally got to Celine. It was obvious to everyone that Celine instantly bonded with me. Then I was there for 2 months, which meant I lost 2 months worth of work and income. The total cost for Celine by the time she got to go to work with me every day was near $50,000. That is very typical of a company trained service dog. Many will do owner assisted training, which involves working closely with a trainer and can still be costly. Wicket, took him after, because I had my auto accident, we took him to the Pet Palms for 2 weeks of boarding and training. And then Destiny worked with him a little bit. I did a lot of the training myself. So he was around about $5,000 to $10,000 for training. Cletus, Cletus was owner assisted training. Destiny did a lot of the training on him, and I had homework to do with him every single day. The third option, which is allowed by the ADA, is owner trained. This places the full burden of public access training, socialization skills, and task training on the owner of the dog. We highly recommend that if you go this route, speak with a pet training center that offers CGCs, which is Canine Good Citizen Training, complete their entire course, and get your certificate of completion. I have landed in court a couple of times where somebody said that my dog wasn't a service dog, that their dog attacked because their dog is a service dog. And the judge wanted to know what they had done to ensure that their dog had public access training. And they said, well, it's our service dog. Come to find out, no, it was their emotional support animal, which requires no training, does not require public access, does not have the same rights as a service dog. Judge asked me, where's your proof of public access? Hey, I've been a trainer since 1990. By the way, he completed the Canine Good Citizen course at the Pet Palms. You can contact them and verify. And I do check with, they do evaluate him. They evaluated him every 6 months until we washed him from service. Did the same thing with Bella, did the same thing with Cletus. It was worth the money. And it cost about $1,000 over the course of, it was $50 a week over the course of 6 months and $100 for the testing fee. It was very well worth the $1,000. I think this is the last one on commonly asked questions. How do I register my service dog? Does everybody want to answer this in unison? You don't. The only licensing a service dog needs is what is required by the city you live in, period. No ands, ifs, or buts about it. Well, I saw that. No, if you saw a website saying, you can register your dog as a service dog to take them anywhere. No. The ADA and the Department of Justice and every single state in the United States does not recognize a single registry for service dogs. This is just the United States. If you are traveling overseas, you need to be aware of their service dog laws. Should I travel to Ireland or London with one of my service dogs? They have to be certified as a service dog. The only way I could do that is to have the CGCs and the doctor providing a note stating that this is a service dog, should I decide to travel over there. So how do I certify my service dog? Again, you don't. Many training programs will provide you with a certificate of completion of their program, but that is not evidence of the need of a service dog by a handler. Medical necessity and task training is what defines a service dog. Man, how many questions did I pull up? What if my landlord demands papers on my service dog? Per the FHA, only your doctor can provide a statement of need for a service dog. If your city requires the dog to be licensed, then you will have to provide that documentation as well. Some will ask for proof of vaccinations. This is very commonly seen by universities and apartment complexes. Sometimes if you're renting a duplex or a house, to protect themselves, they will ask, is your dog vaccinated? They're going to ask for this. They're going to ask for that letter from the doctor. If your dog needs to be licensed, rabies shots, they're going to ask for that and you have to provide it. You okay? Yeah. Who do I contact if I have an access issue? The state you live in should have guidelines along with how to report ADA access issues. States tend to be more responsive than the Department of Justice. If you go to the American Disabilities website, they have a telephone number and a website listing for the Department of Justice to file a complaint. Questions for the trainers. So Megan, that's going to be you and me. What one piece of advice would you give someone when looking for a potential service dog, Megan?
Calmness. Calmness.
That's one of the things that I look for too. I also look for how connected are they to you. They're,
yes.
You can go to I see this a lot, and I saw this a lot when I was volunteering. I think Mikey works at a vet clinic where people are coming in and they look for a dog, and they come in 3 or 4 or 5 different times into a the dog catchers. I can't think of the name right now. My brain is fogging up on me. Animal control. Yes, the animal control shelter. And they got to have that spark of connection. If you are picking out your own service dog that is already, I would say, more than 6 months old. When we went and picked up Cletus, he was already 7 months old, and man, he was right there by my side. But there was a ton of puppies, there was other dogs, but he was, as soon as we come in, it's like he knew that he was going home with me. And so that is something that I look for when finding a potential service dog. If I've done a behavioral evaluation on them, then yes, I'm going to bring in the client next to see if these dogs connect with them.
Me too.
What one piece of advice would you give somebody when looking for a dog trainer to either train a service dog or assist with the process? These would be the ones who reach out to us on our Facebook pages or our websites, and they're not local to us, so we can't say, oh yeah, I can do that for you. They need help finding a dog trainer.
I would, because I don't really find that situation very often, but I usually will tell them online training if they can't find one in their area. Because a lot of people that I work with have issues finding trainers. Like they don't have, like we have hardly any trainers here. And I'm the only private owner trainer, I guess, in the place. And everybody here says, oh, I have a psychiatric service dog, but they really don't. And so I kind of go and help them by like educating and like retraining and teaching them stuff. You know, if they're gonna be going out in public anyway, they need to know the laws.
Yeah. Because the actual program that we run is got members in 8 different states, and I looked at our analytics. We do have followers from almost every single state in the United States. I have received messages from people, how do I find a trainer? And the first thing that I tell them to do is let your fingers do the walking. Find a local service dog group on Facebook, Nextdoor, MeWe, whatever the newest social website is that people go into, and ask around, hey, who do you recommend? Recommendations are the best way, in my opinion, to find someone to help you train your service dog. When I was starting the process to move up to San Antonio from Corpus Christi, my boss had dogs and she worked with a lot of them. You know, she got me in with her vet. And she says, you know, there's been times that I've boarded my dogs at the Pet Palms. So I went to a couple of their training sessions. I really liked how they trained. Everybody that was in the classes was intent and they were paying attention to everybody. They weren't hyper focused on just one person that was having issues. They were very well rounded and keeping an eye on everyone. None of the training sessions had less than a 3-to-1 ratio. So for every 3 dogs in training, they had 1 trainer and in the session with us. And that was a safety piece. So that for me, that was some really good information to be able to pass along to people. Yeah, the big box stores will get you your CGCs, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they have hired qualified trainers. 90% of the time, they just hire somebody that wants to work there, and they ask, hey, do you have any experience training dogs? So like, okay, yeah, well, some will, guess what? All of a sudden, they're now training for the CGCs. They did the hour-long course on the AKC website, watched their video, answered the questions, paid their fee, and got their certification to do the CGCs. So I always tell people, ask for references. You know, people are going to know be in the know. People with service dogs are already going to be in the know. Ooh, this is a good one for you, Megan, because you're new on this. What one piece of advice do you have for those looking to start a service dog training business? We know this is a major need. When I was looking at Wicket getting trained, I went to several different trainers in Corpus Christi, and when I had called them, they told me it was going to be $50 a session. Once we got there and they discovered that I was disabled and he was going to be a service dog, all of a sudden it jumped up to $500 a session.
Wow.
What? You're teaching him the same things. You're teaching him the same things as you're teaching every other dog at your training facility. Why did it go up? So what piece of advice would you have for people starting a dog training business?
Make sure that your I guess your ethics and your sort of who you are is kind of like very present, because especially your pricing should be very, I feel like what it says on your website you should, you know, honor. as much as possible, because that's going to get you the references, and take videos.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously, that I get references from videos and from my
Mhm.
clients, and that's how I get people. And
Mhm.
so I think that this, if they offer that, and especially if they're kind, like I work a lot with people with mental illnesses.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people need to realize that they're working with people with disabilities, not just service dog training. You're also working with the handler.
Yeah,
And so that's the advice I would give.
that's one of my piece of advices as well, is take a continuing education class on basically customer service and how to, the word behavioral, something that just popped in my mind and left just as fast. Basically on how to understand how to work with people who are disabled, whether it's a physical disability, a mental disability, or an invisible disability. Those are the different types of people you're going to work with. Either you can work with just generic service dogs that cover all three, including guide dogs for the blind or hard of hearing, or are you specializing like Megan does in people who have psychiatric service dogs? I tend to specialize in people who have physical disabilities that have problems moving around, getting around. So a lot of what I focus on is, drop item retrieval. I also have to remember that I need to be able to go to the client, because a lot of my clients can't drive, legally can't drive.
Yes.
Once I lost my license, that pretty much killed it for me training, because I have to rely on other people to drive me to places to meet with the clients or whatever. So I'm hoping with, Christopher has a job and, he's got Monday, Wednesday, Fridays off. That gives me the opportunity. We already know that Monday morning and Wednesday is all booked up, but that gives me Monday afternoon and Friday, maybe an occasional Saturday, Sunday. Mike and Colleen, do you have any questions that you would like to ask of us as trainers? Now we come to the fun part. Handlers, questions for the handlers. When and how was the determination made that you would benefit from a service dog? Colleen, at what point did you look at Penny and say, it would be really great if she could help me with this?
When she began naturally alerting to my symptoms, up to that point, I wouldn't have even considered the possibility. But when she began naturally alerting, that's when I dug into what are the laws, what are the requirements, what do I need to train her, and at that point she was already obedience trained and could pass the CGC before she even began alerting. So we had a head start, but the determination was basically, here I am, suddenly a diabetic, a brittle diabetic, post-surgery, and my dog is pacing back and forth and alerting on a symptom. So and began consistently doing so.
What age was that? What age was your dog when that happened?
Oh my goodness, she was already 6 years old.
See, that's what I see. Like I work with a lot of adult dogs. So I see that as well, because I've heard similar stories.
Which means basically that you've got a shorter window
Yeah.
of having a service dog working with you. And I'm always watching for anything that might age related that might limit her ability to go out in public.
Exactly. That's very responsible.
Yeah, that's what we ended up having to do with Bella after she blew out her ACL. When we got Bella in 2018, I was knelt down and I was petting her, and this was when I first started dealing with seizures, and nobody knew what was going on. We knew I was dealing with syncopic episodes where my blood pressure would drop and my heart rate would drop. All of a sudden, after I cracked my skull, anytime that I was having a sudden blood pressure drop, I started having seizures. Wicket was pretty good about being able to say, hey mom, you're getting ready to have a drop, but he was not prepared at all for the seizures. I mean, the first couple ones, it freaked him out really bad. And so we had somebody who was trying to rehome a backyard breeder rescue. That was Bella, the American Staffordshire Terrier. Giant love bug known as Boom Boom Belladonna, because you get that music going or get her happy and her tail's next to something, it's boom, 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 boom,
Boom, boom,
boom.
boom.
But yeah, I mean, that was, when we said, okay, we now need to make sure that we're checking for, are they naturally alerting to changes in need. And I do like to spend 1 or 2 hours with a dog before I commit to saying, yes, it's going to come home with me. I want to give this a try. But the first time for me was back in 1995. I was working as a peace officer for St. Louis County. St. Louis had county police and constables versus, and they had sheriff and everything. And I was involved in an incident where I got shot in the chest with a shotgun at close range. I did have a vest on, which is the only reason I'm here alive. And that was in the age of when the workman's comp doctor says, okay, you're ready to go back to work, you go back to work. 2 days after I spent 2 days in the hospital. 2 days later, I had my follow-up with the workman's comp doctor, and he released me back to full duty. And it was my very first shift back, and we're sitting in the briefing room going through our briefing. And Kazan, my field training officer's dog, come over, and he got his front paws on my legs and his snout in my face, and just started staring me down. And we're like, whoa, what's going on? And my lieutenant had trained dogs, and so he's like, I think you're going to ride with JJ and Kazan tonight. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. About an hour into our shift, we're having to do a foot pursuit against an armed robbery suspect who was fleeing the scene. And at the time, I was known as High Speed Kearney. I could run. I was really fit, and I could run fast, and I could run a long distance and not tire out. I had just gotten out of the military. I weighed 122 pounds, soaking wet, full utility belt, and I was 5'9", 5'10". So yeah, I was not a little lady to contend with. Well, I mean, I was skinny. And so I'm taking off after him, and the next thing I know, I'm waking up in an ambulance, and they're, doing CPR on me. And I'm like, whoa, what happened? They're like, man, you went, they heard gunshots and you went down. They couldn't, Kazan was standing over you and you weren't responding, and they couldn't find a pulse, and your blood pressure was non-existent. And I'm like, okay, all right. So I dealt with that for a while, and then we decided that I needed to take a break from law enforcement. And my captain and lieutenant came up to me and they said, we're retiring Kazan, and we would like you to take him. And that was the first time that I ever encountered the notion that somebody with an invisible disability would benefit from a service dog. I was blessed in the fact that he was already a certified canine, so he could essentially come with me everywhere. But this was back before the ADA said that service dogs had full access rights. This was back before the ADA said that you could own or train. You had to have only thing that was available was company trained dogs, and they were only training guide dogs and mobility assistants. That was it. The entire industry, everybody knew in the back of their mind that there was a lot more that these dogs could be doing, but it was just starting to become known. So from 1995 to 2010, when they passed the new regulations, and I believe we have more new regulations that are up for next year, to start next year. I haven't gotten everything yet, but if you follow the ADA to their beta site, that has all of the proposed changes that are coming out at the end of this year. So that was just kind of where my journey of benefiting from a service dog started. And a lot of people are like, oh, it's like, well, yeah, no, I wasn't attention seeking. So question to all of our handlers. Is there a part of your life from before having a service dog that you miss?
No.
Yes. I miss my abled life. I really do. But
I don't know.
go ahead.
No, you go first.
I just, while I love having a service dog, it is also a huge responsibility. And when you add that up with having to watch your own health very closely on an hour by hour, minute by minute basis, how am I doing? Am I okay? And do I need to make adjustments to my, my food intake, my insulin? Am I having anxiety? I have medical anxiety. So you have to plan ahead so much when having a service dog. And also when having a disability. And when you add those two up, it's sometimes overwhelming.
It is
Very much so, yeah.
with Cletus basically being washed from public access, and my son being here to help. I kind of sat down and I thought about that when I was at the neurology office, because the staff was used to seeing a service dog come with me. So this new doctor, I hadn't seen a neurologist since January, and I finally got in September to see the neurologist. And this was the first time that his staff had ever seen me come in without a service dog. And I will admit that it is a lot easier to get me and my big old backpack together, knowing that the wheelchair is already in the van, and I already know that I've restocked my snack stack and my electrolyte stash, to just grab my bag and go. When we did Ren Fair and I brought Cletus with, that was a lot of extra stress and anxiety.
Yes.
To know that he was already having issues with public access, knowing that my anxiety was already high, knowing that he picks up on my anxiety and it makes him anxious. I think he was only there for like 4 or 5 hours before I had to say, Matt, take him home. This is too much. I can't handle my own disability and the responsibilities that I have with the being at this event and him all at the same time. The other part that I miss, now that, I don't have a service dog coming with me out in public all the time, it's privacy.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Cletus is big enough and knows how to open up the shower door. He has his job of hugging me while I'm on the toilet to make sure I don't pass out off of the toilet. I cannot step a foot outside the door without Cletus and Wicket being right there. Yeah, there's some other non-PG rated issues about being married with a service dog that I missed. Yeah, there's no more being quiet because you kick them out of the room and the entire house now knows that they're on the other side of the door. That I actually kind of miss not being able to have quiet time, because they're always here. Always, I get out of the house and I'm like, all right, I have quiet time. And I come back to the house like, hey, my dogs. And will you guys just please leave me alone? I want 5 minutes alone. So that's one thing that I miss, is my quiet time. So keeping it PG-13, as all of us are out in public, and we know that the public is not always polite in the questions they ask. What is the most invasive question you have ever been asked in public? Keeping it PG-13 or PG, because this is going up on our YouTube channel that is verified child friendly for all ages.
Yes, please.
For me, I think the most invasive question that I have heard is, well, sweetie, what's your disability? What makes you sick?
I get that too.
I get this. So what kind of dog do you have? And I'll answer Boxer Boston Terrier. No, honey. What kind of dog is he? Portable boxer? I basically, give the same answer no matter how many times they ask it, until I finally get to the point and I say, I see you've got a little bit of a limp. What happened? Or, hey, you're missing a tooth. What happened? I'll scrutinize them to intentionally pick out something that I see that is different about them, to start asking them where it's from. Most invasive situation I've ever come across was in an HEB. I was grocery shopping and this lady insisted that her grandchildren could pet my service dog and it was okay. It was not okay. It was in the middle of winter. I already have a lot of syncopic issues, and her kids put themselves between me and Wicket, and I ended up having a syncopic issue where I hit my head. Managers got involved, the police got involved. They basically were arresting her at the store for interfering with a medical device causing serious bodily injury. When I went down, I had hit the shelf from here to here and split. So it was considered serious bodily injury. I mean, I don't like to think about what could have happened if there hadn't been the police already responding and the manager trying to catch me from going down. To me, that's not so much more of the most invasive question, but the most invasive entitlement that I have seen to able-bodied people. When they see a service dog in public, they feel they have this right to ask you all of these questions and to pet your dog, whether or not that you've got things on there saying do not pet, do not distract, or if you're telling them verbally, please don't pet my dog. It's just, you lose the ability to just go grocery shopping like everybody else, because everybody has to be invasive on what they ask you.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be a tell us about your typical day when. And I think I've got 3 different things here. So we'll probably start with Megan on what is it like trying to go to work with a service dog?
Well, I train dogs, so it's pretty awesome because he helps me socialize them. He helps me see where they're at as far as dog behavior, and so I'm sorry, I'm having a brain fart.
That's okay, but we're almost done. I think we're down to almost just the last few slides or questions.
Okay, so what were we saying? Oh, bring your dog to work. Okay, the time that it's bad though is if it's a negative case or it's a really aggressive case and I don't want to get him involved, then I have to make sure that my boyfriend's with me, somebody's watching him for like an hour. Yeah. But I mean, other than that, since mine's a psychiatric service dog, I feel a little bit different about it because he gets me out of the house. I'm allowed to go to the grocery store because he's there, Like, so I'm so happy to have him because my agoraphobia is not an issue.
Yeah.
So that's why I say, I mean, yeah, having a service dog is, like you have to deal with a lot of stuff, but in my instance, I'm happy to deal with this stuff because it's stuff I haven't been able to deal with.
Colleen, do you want to take going to the doctors or do you want to take going out?
Going to the doctors, I think, is a really good one for me. I actually just had an appointment a little over a week and a half ago with my primary care doctor, and I had Penny with me. She went to go examine my feet, and Penny was laying next to the table, the exam table. And when she reached down to touch my feet, Penny had been laying on the floor, relaxed, with her head down on the floor. But as soon as she went to go touch my feet, Penny's head jumped up and she looked over, and my doctor backed up. And I did not realize that my doctor was afraid of dogs. So I had to help her understand that Penny's response was because she's always aware of my personal space. And if she is concerned about a stranger who is getting too close to me, she will block. So then I had to explain what blocking was. And then I explained that if she ever ran into a dog who responded in any way other than alert, or to physically put themselves between you and a patient, then they should not be qualified. They're not even qualified as a service dog. That behavior cannot go beyond alertness.
Yeah.
Other times I've actually had doctors look at me as though you don't need a service dog, and actually get almost combative with me in the doctor's office. So it can be difficult going to a doctor's office, but the good news is that all the front office personnel love it. Oh, can I pet your dog? And you get a lot of that. With me, I'm a little different, and I try to be a good ambassador, and I tell people, yes, you can pet right now as long as she is sitting. So let me get her into a seated position, and as long as she's seated, you can pet her. But as soon as she gets her butt up off of the floor, you must stop petting her. So I try to be a good ambassador, and balance, because people just love dogs. People, and
Especially out here.
Yes. And they can't resist the whole idea of reaching out and petting your dog. So sometimes I say, no, I'm sorry, she's working, especially when I'm in a vulnerable place physically. But if I'm okay and we're just, in a general environment like a dentist's office or a doctor's office or something like that, in the waiting room, and people want to say hi, I tell them point blank, she must be in a seated position, and she must remain in a seated position until you're done petting. If she gets up, I have to stop her, and you. So I take things a little differently than a lot of people do. My disabilities don't require that level of intensity with my dog. She's pretty reliable, and she's very people and dog friendly and child friendly. So my requirements are a little looser than some handlers would be.
For me, just going out, it was really challenging when I had a tandem team, because we knew Wicked had arthritis and we were going to have to retire him, and we also knew that my disability had essentially gone from being invisible to very visible to everyone. Like there's several times while I'll be out in the grocery store or shopping or whatever, and I'll have an absentia seizure and check out, mentally check out, lights are on, nobody's home, woo, woo. And I've had people get up in my face while that's happening, and they had me sitting on the floor. They're like, hey, are you okay? And they're snapping their fingers in front of my face. And the last time I was in the hospital, that involved me decking a nurse and breaking his nose because he had his fingers too close to my face. And when I came back, I panicked. I didn't know why his fingers were by my face, so I instantly reacted. But going out with a tandem team meant that I had to have twice as many poop bags, twice as many training treats. I had to have spare bottles of water in the vehicle or the backpack just for the dogs. I had to bring along 2 water dishes because, heaven help me, if they actually shared a water dish while we were out. And then just having to learn to have the tandem team of one on the higher side helping, assisting with pulling with my good arm, and Wicked on the other side and making sure he's not getting run over by the wheels of my wheelchair. those are kind of, things that I deal with. And of course, having a tandem team, immediately people assume that I'm faking it and I don't need a service dog, or I'm training the dogs for somebody else. That's the big one I get a lot of time is, oh, I don't know that I could train a dog and give it away. No, they're my dogs. They're for me. I'm using them. And, when I could still walk reliably great distances, that was harder for people to understand, is that I was disabled and why do I have 2 service dogs? And of course, they would start asking a bunch of questions, and a lot of them were invasive. And I would just flat out tell them, I'm out here just to enjoy my day the same as you. I'm sorry, I really don't feel good. I can't answer a bunch of questions today. And then there's days where I am feeling good, where I do be the ambassador to service dogs teams everywhere and help educate the public that yes, you can have a tandem team. The ADA does allow you to have more than 1 service dog if you have more than 1 disability that can be assisted by it. Cletus is not reliable on seizures, but he's great at item retrieval, like the door off of my bathroom cabinet because the medicine bag was in there. Or getting things off the floor, or assisting pulling the wheelchair up a ramp. So yeah, we're going out with a tandem team. If I were to try it right now, I can tell you right now, I ain't gonna make it. It's too much. It adds too much anxiety. Because I do have anxiety about going out in public, because I have had several instances where either my service dog got injured or I got injured because people were interfering with us. That yes, we do have a puppy that we think might work as a good service dog, because he, when I'm having a seizure or a syncope episode, he's the first one to come over and he just lays down next to me, and that's it. He doesn't get in my face. He doesn't try chewing my ear off or ripping my hair out at the roots like the other puppies. But I honestly don't know that I want to go back to having a service dog in public, just because of my own anxiety level. Christopher and Matt, and when Mikey's out with me, that's a pretty good deterrent of people getting into my space and causing me to have anxiety. But we do, I'm going to get them all t-shirts or or little pins or hats that say service human on them. Just so that we can have more questions. Hey, what do you mean service human? It's like, I'm in a wheelchair. What do you think I mean service human?
I do have one more thing I'd like to add.
Sure.
I think the second most common question I get from the general public is, where do I find a trainer? Because my son has a disability, or my daughter has a disability. And I think that's probably the second most common, aside from, what does your dog do for you?
Yeah.
But the second question is, how did you get there? How do you get a trainer? How do you train your dog? And that sort of thing. So this idea of creating a network of service dog trainers, or a group of service dog trainers, is probably awesome in every way. And maybe even having a list of recommended trainers.
That's one of the lists that's going to go up on the website. Let me see here. I think, yep, we're done. Do I have it up? Stop the PowerPoint so I'm not using up my resources. So if you don't have the direct address to our Guardians Guild website, just go to the main one. And I need to kind of rethink about this but we're running out of room. So you come over here to the more once it's completely loaded up. So it has the 7 guilds. And so you go down to the Guardians Guild and it'll open a new screen. It does have links back to the main website. So this is kind of a nod to the fact that I ended my law enforcement career as in the sheriff's department. I don't know if you can kind of see them behind everything. This is for our law enforcement, our medical personnel, and our veterans that are all part of the Guardians Guild. Working Dog Handlers Guild is right here. So this is, we have the ADA laws, the questions that we get, and then training. On the training one, it's going to have a list of trainers by location. So we'll probably set them up by state, and then alpha by state and alpha by city in that state as they come on board. And the preference is to have a link to their website that has their prices. If they do not have pricing on their website, I am not going to put them on our website, because to me that's anxiety inducing to wonder what they're charging. So far the trainers that I have connected with are all good with the pricing that we have come up. I've talked with a lot of disabled people, and they find that $50 a session once a week is actually or every other week is affordable to them. My goal is that we're going to be able to get grants and sponsorships to, eventually be able to train 3 to 6 service dogs a year to give to somebody in the community that needs one. And we will retain ownership of those dogs. So if something happens to the person, the dog needs to be returned to us. If for some reason they can't keep the dog, if they pass away, or they end up in hospice, we would like the dog to come back to us. And the reason that is if they're young enough, we might be able to pair them with another person. If they're getting up in the ages where they were getting ready to retire, then that is where the senior companion care program comes in. Is it just gives seniors somebody who's there with them all the time. And that's a very vital thing that a lot of people sitting at home alone that maybe gets Meals on Wheels once or twice a week, maybe their family will come and see them on the weekends or their day off. This gives them something to take care of. I found that is a very vital thing to seniors living alone, is they have someone other than themselves to take care of. As you can see, the next one that we're going to have is gear locator. That I need to change that. I still have it templated from other things. I'm going to have a gear locator on here. This is going to be the best places, the recommended stores off of Amazon that they can buy, somebody who custom makes them. Is there somebody local? That is something that we're looking at with the haberdashery, is to make custom sized dog booties. And that stems from the fact that Cletus's feet are 5.5 inches by 6 inches when he's standing on the ground. Nobody makes dog shoes for a big dog. They say they're for a big dog, but they're not for a big dog.
And, I have to add to that, dog boots are just difficult to find, especially for dogs that have dew claws, because they always wrap the Velcro right near the dew claw.
That's one of the things, is when we're taking a custom order, we're going to have the size of their paw, and we're going to ask how far up is that dew claw. So either we can do a shorter boot underneath it, or go above it.
Awesome.
Wicket refused to keep dog boots on, and he was actually small enough to have dog boots. So we ended up having to do one that Velcroed across the top of his paw, Velcroed under his dew claw, and above his dew claw. That was the only way he could not get out of his boots. He hated them, but I hated seeing him walk across hot pavement at work and burn his little paws. Preferred care providers, that's going to be our vets, our groomers, people who make dog food, make dog treats. Bella's Barkery will be listed on there. That, hey, this is where you can take your dog. And again, it'll be listed by state, alpha by state, and then alpha by city in the state. And I may go one step further to alphabetize the providers. Not sure yet. We might break it up. I'm still thinking about it on how to do it. And then we do have our own branded merchandise, and we do have affiliate sales links that will be going up on that website. As you can see, I need to update our logo. This is our old logo. We tried updating it and modifying it. turned out we really didn't like it. It didn't come out very nicely on the printed product. Everybody does like our logo of My Hero Has 4 Paws.
Yes.
We did get one of these. It is a lot smaller than that. And it came on a very long collar. We have pet bandanas and we also have a doggy tank top. I do have patterns coming in so that we can custom size dog clothing as well. As somebody who's had the really small service dog to the really, really large service dog, those have been my challenges, finding clothes that actually fit them. You know, because Wicket has that Boston Terrier girth to him. I had to buy the larger sizes, but then it was too long for him or it didn't fit him right somewhere else. So that's one of the goals that I'm aiming for by 2025 is that we can do custom sized clothing, fun stuff, gear, boots, you know, whatever it is that people are not able to get for their dogs. Yes, ma'am.
At some point after this, can we get together? I think I might have a recommendation with regard to caregivers or, you know,
Yeah.
grooming
Yeah,
type
and-
things.
Yeah. Anytime that you have something and you've got their information, the first thing that we want to do is make sure we have their permission to list them on our website. So I always need an email address or a telephone number so that Mikey or I can reach out to them. And I do not have our email address on here. Why do I not have our email address on here? Okay, I gotta fix that. I don't have contact us on. Oh yeah, I do. No, I don't. I need to add contact us on it. Okay, now I see what I'm doing, what I missed. This is what's great about me, you know, looking at stuff with fresh eyes or when I'm multitasking, because then my brain goes, hey, you missed that, idiot. Yeah, there's the contact us. Right there's our contact information on our about page. And I will probably add in, Mikey, I've got vanity emails for everybody that dumps into customer service.
Okay.
But I'm going to go ahead and stop the share and I'm going to stop the recording.